Hello and welcome to the FE Bar. I'm your host, Jack Giordmaina, and joining me as always is Mr. Jack Pickering. We will be looking back at the Jakarta E-Prix, which was won by Dan Ticktum. So I'm expecting a lot of Ticktum love tonight. Also, Oliver Rowland extends his championship lead by 1 point despite finishing in 10th. And we'll be asking, should all Formula E races be double headers? Remember, we can't do this show without you, so make sure you join our Discord, join the waiting room, and have your say on the series you love. Mr. Jack Pickering, how are we?
I'm good. I'm a lot better than what I was like 5 hours ago. I felt like I was just gonna crash after work, but yeah, no, all good today. So yeah.
Tell me about. I don't know. I've been seeing you preparing the show and I've been like, I'm so tired. I need to wake up. Like I need to wake up. Like I don't know if it's like the heat. So obviously in the UK it's been boiling.
Oh, it was dreadful. The thing is, like, I thought, like, yeah, okay. When I looked at the forecast, or like this time last week, and I looked at it and went, oh, okay, it's gonna be hot this weekend, and it was like hot, but it wasn't sunny, which was weird.
On the Sunday, Saturday was nice, but Sunday.
No, Saturday it rained for a bit up at Silverstone in Oxford.
Yeah. Well, you're much further north than I am by an hour, so didn't rain in London. We had a little bit of like.
Oh wow! Huge difference.
We had a little bit. It's true, right? Okay,
you're on the correct side of London for me as well.
So I've got a story, right? It's a random story. Once upon a time, right? I was driving to work. So once I used to work at Waitrose, right? It's a supermarket, and there was this bridge.
Oh, those were the days.
Right? Yeah, when I was much younger, there was this bridge, right, which you had to go past as I was driving. On one side of that bridge, it was bone dry. On the other side of that bridge, it was completely wet. So you could tell how localized like the weather was. So it can happen. Anyway, so we've got a lot to talk about as we said on the show. But one thing that we have to talk about is I'm going to be 30 on Friday. I'm going to be 30 on Friday, and
that's the walking stick.
So, what we thought, obviously, we want to take calls on, obviously, the Formula race, Dan Ticktum fans, and so forth. But if you're not sure what to talk about, but you've got any tips, or how my life is going to be destroyed.
On how to live in his twilight years.
Yeah. What have I got to look forward to now that I'm hitting the ripe old age of 30? So if anyone's got any tips, can anyone, comfort me and, tell me that life is going to be okay? Be really grateful. Or if so if you've got nothing to talk about, give me some tips. And I know a lot of our audience is a bit younger than 30.
I'll write them down. Yeah, and I'll write it down for 3 years' time.
Yeah.
No, I will say though. So one of my favourite ever comedians, a bloke called Dave Gorman. He's
oh yes, I know.
He's incredible. He did Taskmaster in the very early years. He's done a show on Dave called Modern Life is Goodish. But one of the things that he did in sort of the early 2000s was a thing called Google Whack Adventure, where he basically travelled around the world based on Google Whacks, which is where you Google 2 different words, hit go, and it only comes up with one option. And so he went around the world, like stringing together a line of, I think it was 10 Google Whacks, I think was the aim. But it started out by him turning 30, and he was like, right, okay, I'm gonna grow up, and as all comedians, well, he said as all comedians do. I mean, quite a few comedians do it, but they go from being like doing like all the tours and everything to writing a novel, and he was going to write a novel, and the aim was to do it before his 31st birthday, because that is when he starts to grow up.
Yep. So
you've got one more year of being a kid, and then you need to be an adult.
Okay.
At 31, because that's when you turn an adult. 31, not 30, not 18. It's 31.
31. All right. So I've got a year.
One more year, mate. One more year.
Right. I'll take it. I'll take that all day. Right.
So there's some hope for you.
Let's talk Formula E. So Dan Ticktum. Wow. It was a bit of a crazy race in Jakarta because obviously we weren't expecting it to go towards Dan Ticktum. It looked like it was a straight fight between De Vries and and Dennis, but then that all went south. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later with Tobias Wirtz from eFormula News, who's coming on at 8:30. So we'll park that for a little bit, but let's talk about Dan Tickton, because we spoke at the start of the season, right, that we thought they would be strong at the start of the year because everyone might be getting used to, might be some teething problems, and, but it seems like they must have had some teething problems too. And then, it seems like since Monaco, right, and really since Monaco, Dan came out of the blocks in Monaco, and since then he's been absolutely brilliant, and this time luck favoured him, and he took his first victory in 60 attempts. Like, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I was so happy for Dan on Saturday. He very much deserves it. He's sorry, I just I swallowed something weird. Yeah,
Live
I don't
TV.
think I've ever had that.
Get some water.
I'm choking up dancing to one. It's so emotional. No. I was honestly delighted for Dan. I was singing his praises throughout the race, because I was doing some comms for Joshua Birch's channel.
Yeah.
But it was such fantastic thing, because he's struggled for 3 years at the back of the field, and finally he gets this opportunity with a powertrain that won the championship last year. And yeah, like you said, we all thought, well, it's last year's powertrain. Can it really realistically compete with any of this year's powertrains? We thought maybe at the start of the season, we thought it was a bit like Ducati and MotoGP, where last year's bike seems to be somewhat all right for the first part of the season, and then when you get to the second half of the season, that's when the riders on the newer bike sort of like stretch their legs a little bit and they go on to fight for the title. But it hasn't been the case. Dan's and after. It wasn't a great start to the year for Dan, and he said that in the presser and the post-race interview, where he wishes that he had a better start to the season, because I think he's still realistically in the fight for second place in the championship, but he could have been more comfortable in that battle. But yeah, his ever since, I think you said it was Monaco where he properly started motoring
the free
on.
practice sessions that day. I watched your day. It was just like, he didn't get pole position. Taylor Barlow beat him to pole position, but he got to the final of the Jules. Was quickest in both practice sessions, and he was just at one with the car. And ever since then, he gets the podium in Tokyo. He goes to Shanghai, just misses out on the podium in that final lap tussle in one of the races with Jean-Eric Vergne and so forth, and then you go to Jakarta and he wins, and you're thinking, okay, one, can this form continue between now and the end of the season? Two, it shows how good that Porsche powertrain is at this precise, the old Porsche, because you have to remember it's an old Porsche powertrain, so it's still being able to compete at the front despite Porsche having a newer powertrain in the Porsche mobile, however you want to call it, the Porsche car. So it's competitive. Obviously they can update software, so maybe they found something that has enabled it. But my question to you is it sustainable? Because we know it's a 2-year cycle, so effectively going into next season, right, for Dan, it could be harder. They could fall away slightly, but again, because you assume everyone's going to make a little bit of adjustments with their powertrains, improve the software over the winter, and take the step forward, which maybe the old powertrain, that's the limitation. Maybe they're getting the absolute best out of it at this precise moment, potentially, and not being able to do much with it next season and falling away.
Yeah, but the thing is, we've been proved wrong, and we could easily be proved wrong again. When I put a question to Florian Modlinger in Madrid, and I think I've mentioned it half a dozen times, because I only go to like 2 events a year now, and anything that I do in the paddock I will bring up just because I need it for my ego. And and one of the things I asked him was, even though there is a customer powertrain in the Kiro, could they still sort of develop that? And the answer is yes, and so they can learn stuff from the old powertrain for the new powertrain, and vice versa. And so I'm not sure how close the relationship is with Kiro and Porsche, obviously, they work together because they're a factory and customer powertrain unit, but it's whether it's all about what they can do, and
Yeah, but
there must be a ceiling at some point in terms of what is physically available. But if Kiro can have a season like this, and I think Sam Smith put a very good point out in his notebook that had David Beckman even got half the points that Dan Tickton got at the moment, Kira would be fighting for fourth in the championship at the moment.
That's
instead
a point.
Of being down in ninth.
That's a point that I think we need to touch on a little bit later. I think for Dan, though, keeping it on Dan, the talk about him potentially going to Jaguar, right? So, and him moving teams. I think now, if the relationship between Cooper Kiro and Porsche are good, going into Gen 4, you would expect Porsche to be up there. You would always expect Porsche to be up there. And as a customer team in Cooper Kiro, they won't have an old Porsche powertrain. You can't have an old powertrain going into Gen 4, pretty much. You need a new powertrain. So, if Cooper Kiro get an updated level pegging Porsche powertrain, maybe Kiro's the place to be. And why would you move?
And it's realistic that they might be the second Porsche team because, so, as we've heard, like rumours occurred, Andretti are rumoured to be doing something with Nissan for Gen 4, which would be a new partnership there, but would probably mean Nico Muller would move over into the outfit if he's not moving up into the Porsche factory seat, which I mean, like, it's a whole different kettle of fish that we'll get onto later on in the show. But Toby put in chat that Kiro's got a couple Porsche engineers in their unit, and I know that like the Porsche,
which is to be expected.
I'm fairly certain that most of the factory teams have a couple sort of like people in.
That's kind of
like even in Formula One, there are a few Ferrari engineers who work for Haas and stuff like that, and
so that's kind of expected. I want to go back to your point actually, then maybe before we get one of our first callers in, about do teams now, like, okay, the David Beckman issue, right? Obviously a Porsche customer driver, right? Well, a Porsche driver that they put in as part of the deal, part of the package, right? Nico Muller, part of the package, goes to Andretti. I'm not saying Nico Muller and David Beckman are in the same category here, because Muller has performed slightly better, but it hasn't worked at Andretti as potentially Muller would have liked it to have worked. But I don't think there's any... I wouldn't say Muller deserves to be replaced, whereas Beckman, I don't think Formula E teams can afford to hang on. I don't know. We see it in Formula 1. Formula 1's cutthroat, right? If you're not performing, Red Bull proved it, right? And, well, Red Bull are the most cutthroat. You're gone. If you're not performing, you're gone, right? And you're looking at Nissan, right? And the prize money that's at stake for potentially winning the team's championship. They could have won that. They could be clear. If they had two solid drivers, they could have been clear, right? And you've got the space wrapped up. Surely now, teams can't carry drivers anymore. If that's not working, I think more ruthlessness needs to happen. I think teams need to cut their losses, say, sorry, Norman, it hasn't worked, we're going to put X in the car. Sergio Sette Camera in this instance.
Yeah. I think the most famous one, I think, was the first year of Gen 2, where it was the second year of Nelson Piquet Jr.'s Jaguar contract.
Yeah.
And they severed ties with him after Sanya and put Alex Lynn in the car. Alex Lynn went on to get points in his first race in Monaco.
Yeah.
And I want to say that he got like a few points finishes after that. And so, for me, like it would make sense. Like, and I have thrown this out there. Look, I love Norman. He's a fantastic person to interview and chat to. But I said it a few months ago, do Nissan leave Sergio in the car for London? If Sergio performs well in Berlin in 3 weeks' time, it would make perfect sense for him to step in for London as well.
If Sergio gets in the Jules, I reckon.
Yeah.
He could.
Well, the thing is, Nato's had decent. Like he's had qualifying performance here and there. Obviously, Nissan had a horrible qualifying in Jakarta, but Nato was on pole in Miami, and had it not been for messy attack mode situation,
he could have won the race.
Arguably should have won the race, but yeah, and maybe had he won that race properly instead of just on the road, that would have propelled him to do better stuff over the course of the year.
Yes.
But I want to go back to Sergio Santacamera as well, because he was the man that made way for David Beckman coming into the team.
Yes.
And Sergio,
and he wasn't very happy about it.
And Sergio, even though he scored less points than Tictum last season, he was consistently on par with Tictum throughout the year. And so, had Sergio been in that seat this season, you have to think maybe they could have been fighting for fourth in the championship. Maybe they could have been higher if Sergio was on Dan's level, which
he was.
I think it's fair to say that Dan and Sergio complement each other quite well, and I quite enjoyed that the little tete-a-tete that between them. But yeah, and David just admittedly he's come into this year as a proper. Well, he had a couple races in Jakarta,
but he's had a lot of time. For me,
it's
been a test driver for Porsche for a long time. If he hasn't
done much by the end of the year, then
yeah. Right, let's get Lou in. Let's get Lou in.
Yeah,
and
because
let's find out about what he has to say about Dan. I hope I got rid of that sound.
Come down from the ceiling.
I thought I got rid of the sound. You know, this Discord
sound that moves.
Yeah, I tried to get rid of it. I thought I did, but I haven't got rid of.
I don't know.
Anyway, Lou, whenever you can, unmute. But obviously, Dan Tictum winning, unreal.
Yeah. Have you come down from the ceiling?
I didn't go to the ceiling this time, but yeah. It's really unreal actually, but it was also sort of unexpected in a way, because it all fell right in the right way in the end. So it was not like you were expecting this to happen throughout the race.
He said he didn't expect to win a race this season, right? He didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And obviously his performance levels have been huge, like over the last couple of races. So it wasn't like it was out of the blue. Like, he's worked, he's shown his pace, and you know, he was a bit unlucky in China, but the luck went his way, as he said, in Jakarta, and he took the win.
Yeah, true. It's been multiple races where luck wasn't on his side, so finally it is. So that's good. And also, when you talked about consistency, it's like someone in the other Discord made like a list of the last 5 races on points, and Dennis has the most points the last 5 races.
The informed man.
So that's it's kind of insane in a way. Also not what you would have expected, because it's still an old Porsche.
Yep.
It's not the newest package, so it will definitely not be the fastest technical package available. But they are maximizing it, and they're being consistent. So yeah, it's really something.
Have you been surprised? Because we thought at the beginning of the season that they'd be quick, but obviously they seem to be getting on top of the new. And I suppose for a team that was running their own powertrains, they're running as a customer team, there was a lot of transition. So maybe we didn't expect that as much as, or didn't factor that in. So, but the car has been really matching. It's been on the same level as, I would say, as the Porsche cars. So has that been a bit of a surprise to you of late?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. Maybe they're still a bit behind on that. You would expect a new package with more new developments to be faster than the old one with less new developments, even if there are developments. So it's really impossible to judge, because if you look at where his teammate is, it could be just that Dan and the team have just clicked really well and have maximized it. More so than the other teams and drivers have. Not necessarily that the package is faster in that way. And you would also expect it to be, how do you say?
Bit more competitive.
Yeah, more like in the beginning they were struggling. Now they've managed to get it together fully on all sides of it, but more like the development will slow down.
Yeah, that's what we're worried about. Is that something that you're worried about going into next season?
Yeah, I would have expected this season to be worse than it is.
Okay.
But I would definitely expect next season to be a step back. That would be expected, I think.
Yeah.
I just hope that they can sign the things for next gen Porsche this year, so when they're still in the good flow, that they can get it done.
Yeah, Pika, anything to add?
I mean, like just echoing what Lucy said. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a difficult sort of going from this season to next season, and what will next year be a 2-year-old powertrain. A 1-year-old powertrain is, but the thing is, when you've got an extra year and it's not an extra generation, but it's kind of is, because you use one for 2 years, and so actually it will be the 4th year of it being used.
Yeah.
But and so no, there must be a ceiling at some point. But I mean, I reckon Porsche will be able to gain some sort of improvement, whether it will be to the levels of everyone else. But I understand why next season's gonna be a struggle, which I think makes what's happening at the moment like more meaningful.
Does the Gen 4 situation excite you in terms of like they could have a proper Porsche powertrain by then that could be enough to keep Dan at the team, and potentially we could see these results on a more regular basis?
Yeah, that would be ideal scenario. I think if you look at how he is within the team, it seems to complement each other very well. So if they can have a technical package that is top of the bill, then that would be the best combination for Gen 4, I think. And also if you look at how much Porsche is already working with them, in Tokyo they were actually working together on strategy to make that podium happen.
Yep.
Together with Pascal, and that went really well. And also they're using the Porsche Sim rig to prepare for the races.
Yep.
So there is a lot of synergy happening, and also with the party reels and stuff like that. Stories being shared. That was also between Kiro and Porsche staff. So it mixes everywhere in a way.
Perfect. Lou, thanks so much for coming on. It's definitely exciting times, I think, for Dan and Kiro. So fingers crossed that it continues. But thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, before we get to Tobias on, let me show you the championship standings, because I've made it and might as well show you it before we get Tobias on. So let's just have a look at how the results affected things from Jakarta. So as it finally loads, there we go. Oliver Rowland is on 171 points, 69 points clear of Pascal Wehrlein. And then for one reason, it should be update. Why hasn't the bottom three updated? Everything. Why has it not updated?
No. So I can tell you for starters, you've got the points wrong because Ollie Rowland's on 172.
Oh, terrible. I've got the points wrong. Right.
That is the points before Jakarta.
Yes, but I've updated it. Oh, terrible. Let's play. There's obviously some glitch in the system. There's a glitch in the system somewhere. So I've updated it. I know I've updated it. So we'll update it again. And we'll show you it properly because it is updated. I have to click another button. But I can't access that button now until we get to a break. So we'll get that in a minute. But never mind.
We'll get you the actual standings in hour 2.
Hour 2, don't panic. Production value is not low, but
but
all my changes that I've made so far haven't worked. The changes to the thing, and I've ticked him as 5th. So I looked at it and I was like, hold on a second, that's not right.
So yeah, very quickly I'll just run it down. Roland 172, Verline 103, DaCosta 100, Barnard 94, Tictum 80, Vern 74, Gunter 71, Casti 68, Mortar 65, and Dennis on 59. That's your top 10.
That is the top 10. We'll show you it properly, hopefully, in
hour two.
And I just hit the button again, and I'm like, how have you not updated? But anyway, there was a man that was in Jakarta, and he's flown all the way back home. And just to be on the FE bar.
Jet lag, dizzy.
Just to be on the FE bar. He loves it so much. Tobias Wirtz from eFormula News. How are you?
Good evening, guys.
How is the jet lag?
Jet lag is fine, I have to say. I have some kind of trouble with my throat because the
aeroplanes.
Yeah, and not just the aeroplanes, but the media center was quite cold inside. And
what was the temperature difference then? Like, because how muggy was it? Because we know Pico says it's terrible. Like, how was it out there?
Yeah.
out there it was not that different compared to here, to be honest.
Okay.
I started my journey with 30 degrees on Wednesday afternoon.
Nice.
And I rode in Jakarta with 30 degrees on Thursday afternoon. But of course, the humidity is the big thing.
Yes.
That's absolutely makes it absolutely different. I have to say, in the morning it's quite okay, but after 9, 9:30, the humidity gets even more and more, and you can't stay outside.
When I went a few years ago, basically I'd leave the media center for all of 90 seconds, and it looked like I'd run a marathon. I was sweating that much, but yeah.
Maybe good if you want to lose weight.
No. Well,
come on, Pico, join me next time.
No. A, yes, I do need to lose weight.
Well,
B, you're just the thing is, you'd just be like drinking water the entire time. So everything you're sweating out, you're
drinking back in,
back on. Yeah,
you're putting back on. Yeah.
You should. You have to drink very much because otherwise. You're not able to get back in the media center again, I think.
Hydration is good, boys and girls. Note it down.
Water. It's free, apparently, if it's from the tap. Anyway, right. Let's talk Formula E. I wanted to start with the Jake Dennis and De Vries stuff, and obviously we can talk about Jake Dennis and his how he didn't win the race because it wasn't really covered on the day. So let's start with that, because obviously the Vries collision, you got the 10 seconds penalty. You know, a lot of drivers have been moaning about the Vries, and apparently, according to Sam Smith, there was this debate that they wanted more stricter penalties and it wasn't coming for Jakarta, and I have a feeling that a lot of that might have been down to the Vries. But it wasn't that incident that caused him not to win that race. Can you divulge a little bit more information about what actually happened to Jake Dennis?
Okay, first things first. There was a discussion with some senior drivers, I call it that way, and the race director, but not but it was more about consistency of the penalties. Not that there have to be harsher penalties. That's first. Jake Dennis suffered a technical issue. There was the first full course yellow, I think, and at the end of the full course yellow, let's go backwards. If there is a full course yellow, you push a button on the steering wheel. This activates a limiter that you can't drive faster than 50 kilometers per hour. And if the full course yellow ends, you push that button again, and the limiter is released, and you can go fast again. What happened is that Jake pushed the button at the end of the full course yellow, but it didn't release the speed limiter. So he went 50 kph the whole time. He did a power cycle then to reset the car, and then he was able to go fast again, but he lost about 40 seconds,
Yeah.
45 seconds, something like that, during that procedure.
Amazing
And
that
so
it wasn't
he-
captured on TV.
So he went from P1 to P18.
Yeah, 18. Yeah, I saw. Like, he tumbled down. The commentators have spotted it, but none of the cameras had spotted that. And he's obviously, if he's done a power cycle, he's stopped on track as well. So he's stopped, surely, to do that power cycle, I would assume.
I
Unless
don't
you
know
could-
if it's I don't know if it's possible to do a power cycle while still driving, but I don't think so.
Yeah. So you'd assume
he had to
you'd assume
stop,
he'd
yeah.
had to have stopped, right? That's just incredible.
Yeah.
Really is incredible that that was missed. But what a shame. And they said because I read the sort of the news around it, so I kind of knew he had a full course yellow issue. But apparently he's had that issue before. It's not a new issue. It's actually something that's happened before.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I heard that maybe another thing was a problem.
Okay.
Because a Formula E car has two different speed limiters. One for full course yellow and one for pit lane. This is because sometimes it's the case that in the pit lane is another speed limit than during a full course yellow. For example, Zurich in Switzerland. There were cobblestones in the pit lane, so pit limit has been 30 kilometers per hour. What's possible is that Jake Dennis pushed the wrong button.
Okay.
That he pushed full course yellow to activate the speed limiter, but then he pushed the pit lane speed limit button to release it, and then the electronics of the car didn't know how to proceed.
What was going on?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if it's true. That's something I heard that could be possible. Could be possibly the reason, because, to be honest, there are 6 Porsche-powered cars on the grid.
Yep.
Doing a full course yellow procedure during each FP1 session. So there must be at least 200 or 300 full course yellow activations during the season.
Yep.
And if there's a general problem with the full course yellow speed limiter, it should have been appeared already sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true. That's something I heard, rumors.
It's interesting that the car completely went into a frenzy, didn't know what to do, because you'd assume if he hit the wrong button, then nothing would happen until he hit the right button. So for it to cause a power cycle is a bit crazy. It's a bit.
That's some kind of electronic things. If you activate a limiter and the first limiter is already activated, the system doesn't know how to go forward. So maybe it activates both limiters at the same time, and that's the software is obviously not used to proceed at this status.
Yeah. No. Well, makes sense. Although, when you're sim racing, right, and you've got your steering wheel and you hit the wrong button, your car doesn't just die. So it's just a bit interesting. I found that quite interesting. So last things then, what did you learn? So obviously you were in Jakarta, you were getting your nose around the paddock. Any interesting things that you maybe found out? Anything that was going on that you thought, actually, that's quite interesting?
No, there were many things, of course. Dan Ticktum's win was a big topic after the race, for sure. On the other side, he has been very, very lucky, to be honest. Jake Dennis should have been the winner, to be honest. He was very dominant the whole weekend. Nick de Vries, we know him.
What was his reaction after the race? Because he kind of put his hand up, but
he didn't say any word about the incident. And I think Nico Müller referred to him when saying that at some time in the race, some drivers lose their patience, and then things end up in chaos. And he didn't say who he was talking about, but I'm quite sure that Nick de Vries is one of the driver he was referring to.
Yep.
Yeah. On the other side, very bad luck for Mahindra, of course. The penalty was well deserved for Nick de Vries. For sure. But Adam Mortara, should have been the race winner too. To be honest, he had just bad luck with his attack mode, so that he was behind Dan in the end, and the full course yellow was quite late in the race, so there were no extra laps.
Yeah.
And so he had more energy than Dan, but wasn't able to overtake. That's another big topic. The track was absolutely dusty, so it was usually in most cases not possible to overtake with 300 kilowatts of power. The only way to overtake was to activate attack mode. And one thing I'd like to add, I learned that was really new, is the lap times in FP2. I don't know if you saw it.
I wasn't awake. Sorry. Go on. It was raining.
I think so.
Yeah.
In the beginning, the track was really wet.
Yes.
And then it was drying up. Lap times got faster and faster and faster until midpoint of the session. And then lap times got slower again without new rain.
Okay.
And Jake Hughes was the only one to use attack mode during this part of the session. And then he ended up 1.5 seconds faster than anyone else. And in the end, the track was 4 to 5 seconds slower than midway of the session.
What was that down to?
Yeah, that's very interesting. It has to do with the dust.
Okay.
As long as there was enough water on the track, the dust had no effect because there was so much water, and the tires, I don't know the English word, put the water away. And when it was drying up, the water was getting less and less. But of course, the amount of dust was still the same.
Yep.
And right after midway of the session, there was a point reached where there was the water getting less and less, and the surface became slippery because the mud on the track reduced the grip for the tires. For sure, the tires in Formula E are not optimated for muddy surfaces.
Yep.
They do pretty good on dry tracks. They do not that good on wet tracks, but on muddy tracks, they are absolutely the wrong tires.
All right. 2 quick questions before we let you go.
For sure.
You mentioned Maserati there. Did you find out? Did you end up finding? Because both had very similar failures, and obviously Van Dorn lost all brakes. Did you find out anything there? And just to add on the mud and the dust, why was it so dusty? Like, why was it so dusty?
Okay. It's both. Both questions have the same kind of answer. It was because of the dust. That the Maserati cars had troubles with overheating, and the cooling was affected. Sorry.
Yeah.
And they got temperature problems, especially the front powertrain.
Yep.
And in both cars, the battery switched off because the overheating. And Jake Hughes got lucky because this happened at the exit of turn 1.
Yep.
No, not turn 1. Sorry. I think it was the exit of turn 1. Yeah. No, it then happened. It happened at the exit of turn 18.
Okay.
So he rolled down start-finish straight and parked the car at the end of turn 1. For Stoffel, this happened at a place where he got quite higher speed, and if the battery shuts down, you have no regeneration on the back, and there you have no brakes. I don't know why the emergency brake system didn't work for Stoffel. That's something they have to investigate. But it should have been worked in this situation, to be honest. And why there was be so much mud? For those of you that have ever been in Jakarta, yeah, it's quite muddy over there. So there was so much rain coming down that the whole mud was on the track again, and
So was it just the weather then? The wind just blowing it over?
yeah, that's one topic, and
It's also right next to a beach.
The other topic is they don't have systems in the city to let the rain flow down off the streets.
Okay.
That's what I saw in the whole city. There was after the rain there was water on the streets, partially 30, 40 centimeters high.
Okay, wow.
Because
So no drainage.
yeah, they have no drainage because Jakarta is below sea level.
Okay.
So they are not able to let the water flow out of the city.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Just very quickly before we let you go, I just want to ask about the penalties, because there were a few questionable, let's say, penalties over the course of the race, and I think I saw that a couple drivers weren't too happy about how the penalties were distributed, and they were looking for something.
They always are, aren't they?
Yes.
Clarity. Yeah, but yeah, no, I was wondering if you heard anything about that over the course of the weekend, that the like changing the systems of how the penalty works or something like that.
What I heard that there have been talks that the stewards should be more consistent when giving penalties. Something I referred to in the past, that sometimes there are time penalties for a collision, sometimes drivers just receive a warning, sometimes nothing happened. Yeah, and that's has been a problem for a very, very long time, I think. And all the drivers hope that there is more consistency now. Yeah, in other cases, some drivers are moaning that now they got penalties. For example, Roland, when touching Max Günther during the race and he wasn't pushing him into the barriers, but he hit his front wheel. Yeah, he hit his front wheel, and because of this, Max got on the dirty part of the track, and he had no possibility to avoid the contact with the wall.
I thought it was a little bit harsh. A little bit.
Yeah, no, I thought that was harsh. I'm not sure what happened with. Do you know what happened with Buemi and Mortara? Because I didn't find out about that.
Buemi and Mortara, yeah. Buemi braked too late and hit Mortara on the back. Okay. Not sending me into a spin, but I think Mortara lost about 1.5 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, a bit like Vernon Evans then. A bit like
I missed that.
Yeah, well, a bit like Vernon Evans. Vernon Evans was I think, it misjudged from Jeff by far.
Because he was in attack mode, wasn't he? And he was just traveling much faster, and then just push.
Yeah, don't know what he was thinking, but he was braking way too late. Evans was happy to be able to continue, to be honest.
Yeah. It's probably one of those things when you've got a higher attack, a higher speed, you just and everybody else isn't. He was the first person to go into it, and you're traveling at such fast speeds compared to everybody else. You just, I don't know. You're surprised maybe it doesn't happen as often as it does. But Tobias, thank you so much for coming on. Get some good rest, and
thank you, guys.
I will see you in Berlin.
I hope so.
I will. I'm not there on the Friday, but Saturday, Sunday, I'm there. I'm very upset though that they've changed the times to 4 o'clock start. My flight is at 9 o'clock in the evening, right? So I better.
That fits.
So it should work. Fingers crossed. But like, it's not far to get to Tempelhof and get to the airport. But still,
work. Just get a. Yeah, you'll just have to the circuit. Like,
yeah. As soon as the media pen's over.
I did that in Monaco. I did that in Monaco. So
worst comes to worst, I'll get an Uber. But hopefully I can get to Tempelhof station and get the train from there, like I did last year. I can't remember if it started. I'm sure it started at 3 o'clock last year. Can't remember.
Yeah. I
But,
prefer it
I
starting.
think so. I think so. Yes.
Yeah,
I
so
prefer
an hour
it starting
later.
I prefer it starting later.
Yeah, but when
So
you've got a
then-
flight to catch.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, and unlucky. Like, but the fans get to see more action later in the day than normal, so they don't have to get up at stupid o'clock to watch practice.
Oh well, never mind.
So,
Anyway,
yeah.
Tobias, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll speak to you later. We'll see you in
Thank you,
Berlin.
guys. Yeah, I think so. I'll stay in Berlin until Tuesday, I think, because Monday is rookie test. Yeah, for sure. So don't know if I will be here on the FE bar on Monday after Berlin.
But
let's wait and see.
We'll see. We'll see. You can just watch it. But yeah, or if you can,
Sure.
you can give us a little update of what happened in the rookie test. That'd be awesome. I think Nick might be there as well, so we'll see what happens. I won't
Thank
be,
you, guys.
unfortunately. So because other commitments. But thank you so much, and we'll see you later.
See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye. Right, I was hopeful to try and get 2 people on before 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get Natalie.
Get Natalie on because she needs to be up in 6 hours' time.
Yeah, so let's get Natalie on. If we get time, we'll squeeze in someone else. If not, then we'll go into the next segment and we'll get lots of calls. Remember, if you want to have your say on the FE bar, !! Discord, get yourself in and we will talk to you. Natalie, welcome to the FE bar. Hope you are well. What would you like to talk about?
Firstly, and I'm going to go off the FE piece a bit. Happy Pride Month to everyone celebrating.
Woo! Yeah, oh, it's upside down.
It's upside
Yeah. Right, okay. Little bit of history to this. Right, so I bought this last week because I do my 6-side football team.
Yes.
And
Which we both missed tonight.
I bought it. I thought, fantastic.
Oh, it's a
that'd
captain
be great.
armband.
Yeah. It's a captain
I thought it was just a
armband,
normal
but
flag.
yeah, no. You'll be able to see very quickly that it sort of cuts off the blood supply to the rest of my arm.
If you're not playing in goal, you don't need it.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm not even the captain. I just wanted it, and now I can't even wear it because it doesn't fit. I can wear it for about 3 minutes, and then the blood supply cuts off.
I was gonna just ask very quickly, like,
Woo!
do you have to go in goal, or do you
No,
rotate, or do you have an actual goalkeeper?
No.
You have an actual goalkeeper.
I am I'm a defender.
Cool. I'm in goal. Right, that's my position. Right, so
Fair enough.
But I don't like to deviate from it. Natalie, what would you like to talk about?
Everyone's point of topic this evening.
Go
well
on.
done, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. It was an awesome drive, and it was right that his luck came his way.
You know, he's been waiting 4 years for this, and while Kiro in its various guises, yes, self-admittedly, until this season they haven't necessarily had the car to be fighting in the points. To see Dan win and to see how much it meant to the team, it was a good feeling.
Yeah.
Because I think, wasn't their last win Oliver Turvey in season 2?
No, season 1. Oliver Turvey never won a race.
No, Oliver Turvey never won. It was Nelson
Piquet,
in
yeah.
Moscow.
Which is mad to think about.
So
when they
the
were
last
quite
podium
strong.
before Tokyo was Mexico season 4.
Oliver
But,
Turvey.
Oh,
yes.
that was Oliver Turvey, yeah.
that was Oliver Turvey.
It's been a long time for
So
that
they've
team.
waited 6.5 years.
Yeah.
For
a race win.
podium.
A podium and a win, though.
They've waited 10 years for a win. It's probably actually close to 10 years on the nose. I'm going to look that up.
I'm trying to think now. Moscow was
the 6th of June,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
2015.
because it was the second to last
They
race before
waited
London.
10 years. Yeah, so
Just over 10 years.
And London was on your birthday.
Oh yeah, I got an I got a there was this journalist called Catherine at the time, and she, I don't know how she managed to bag some VIP silver guest pass, but she was like, I don't need it, it's your birthday, here you go get some free food. Went and got some free things.
I'm hoping I'll do that for London. I mean, that's close enough. I mean,
Yeah.
like 16th of August, 21st of August. It's close enough, innit?
You'd love a emotion pass. Now they're selling them for like 500 quid or 5,000 pounds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll be honest.
don't know.
I'll take just being on the grid. Like, I'm an easy
I haven't
way.
done that in London. I'm gonna try and see if I can blags my way like I did with Monaco.
Yeah.
Just ask someone very nicely and put some puppy eyes and say, hey. Anyway, so yeah, Daniel ticked him. Dan ticked him. Yeah, obviously luck was on his side with the Jake Dennis situation, but you know, he's had races where luck hasn't been or hasn't gone his way. So like, you know, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some, and for this one he definitely won.
Yeah. And like Toby said earlier, or it might have been you or Toby, with this being an old Porsche powertrain from last year, from the Gen 3 cycle, yes, while it could be good this year, it might not be as good next year.
Yeah, of course. That's the problem, but you never know, right? You never know, right? It's still a good powertrain, so it still might be able to develop, and as you said, there'll be you know, talks between the two. So therefore, you know, likelihood is that there'll be some, but whether or not they'll be in a position where they'll be scoring points on a regular basis, podiums on a regular basis, might be a struggle, but points, but as I said, we never know.
No. They could be good this year, good next year, get the Porsche Gen 4 powertrain and be fighting for the teams. It's Formula E, anything can happen, and that's what we've got to remember.
Yep. 100%. Right, Natalie, thank you so much for coming on.
Alrighty.
And we will talk to you soon.
Some sleep.
Get some good sleep. And or enjoy the rest of the show in bed, right? Don't go to sleep just yet.
Yep.
Right? Finish watching the show, then go to bed.
I mean, I fall asleep watching like the week you can fall asleep watching this kind of thing.
I fell asleep on work sofas this morning.
Oh, brilliant!
That's fine. That's fine. As long as you get your work done, it doesn't matter.
I had a mini nap in the Seoul Media Center in season 8 because I was still jet lagged, and I sort of snored myself awake. But thankfully, I was so far back that no one noticed. So yeah, good.
Before I go, Mum says hi.
Yep, we'll do.
Right.
Good.
Hi, Nikki. Hope you're good.
Hope you're okay. But we'll speak to you soon.
We're just getting by day by day.
Perfect. Yep. Okay, perfect.
So,
we wish you well.
Right then. See you later.
Right, see you later. Right, bye. So there we go. Right, so we're going to take a short break. After the break, we will be talking to Nick and I. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button if you're new around here and you haven't done it already. Hit the like button. It's free. And also, if you want to come and have your say in the second hour, !Discord. Get yourself in there. !TikTok and Instagram as well if you haven't followed us on our socials and all of that good stuff. And we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Goodbye. It is Nick at 9. How are you, Mr. Golding?
Hello, I was starting to think what you're going to call me then. As you wouldn't say Mr. What's his surname?
What's his name? I always call you Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golden, yeah. I am very, very good, thank you. I'm very pleased that the Asian triple header, well, I say triple header, the Asian leg of the season is done and dusted. That's me sounding very selfish from the United Kingdom. But yes, looking forward to the final 4 rounds, and of course, both all in Europe, which is a bit of a relief, I think, after quite a few early mornings, it's got to be said.
Yeah, indeed. I must admit, I haven't enjoyed. And something I wanted to talk about later about having like. We didn't talk about this, but like, should Formula E races all be double headers? I think you're like a bit of on a disagreement on this, but I'm like, you know, when you just got that one race and you've flown all the way to Jakarta and you just got one race and you've not even watched the practice and the qualifying sessions because you're asleep for them, and you know, one race and it's over and it's done with. It just feels like very quick.
I butt in for a second.
Go on.
And say the reason why we're doing one race in Jakarta is because all the
It's
drivers
so hot.
moaned and whined that it was too hot and humid. When
Very
we did the
true.
double header a couple of years ago, so that's why Jakarta's only one race again. Sorry.
If it was my way, and I've said this, you know, several times on here, if it was my way, every race would be a single header, and we would just have maybe, instead of 18 rounds next season across, I think it's 13 cities, we would have 18 rounds across 18 cities. I mean, maybe I'm old school, maybe that's the one thing I'd like us to take from F1 in that not having double headers. Firstly as well, I don't know if it's an SEO nightmare to start off with from a website and a journalist point of view, because like, what do you title your races and your sessions? So from the SEO point of view, it's a nightmare. Just in general, I personally prefer a single header because I think the drivers actually maybe push themselves more. In particular at Monaco, you only have one king of Monaco. So yeah, for me, it's single headers all the way, baby.
Yeah, I'm in the double header camp. I'm in the double. So if you want to talk about that later, you can come on. But let's talk, because you had a little bit of a.
I'm in the let's change the format to having a sprint and a feature race camp.
Woo, many camps. Let's talk about you put out a story today about Sebastian Buemi and contract extensions, and obviously you had your podcast chat with him, so I'm sure it was in there. So interesting, because there was a lot of talk about at the beginning of the season whether it would be his last season, but you know, and we talked about potential, you know, with the Gen 4 stuff that maybe he's looking at, that staying on. So sort of elaborate on that and Buemi sort of staying on, I assume, with Envision.
Yeah, so obviously for those who missed it, Seb came on the Racing News 365 podcast. It would be 2 weeks ago now. It was the week before Le Mans, and was absolutely brilliant on it, speaking about Formula E, WEC, F1. He was all round amazing, particularly on the emotions, of course, of Monaco and what it finally meant to have ended his almost 6-year winless streak. And of course, yes, his future did come up, because actually he's one of the drivers who is being linked more of a departure from the series than most others, mainly because, of course, that there were fears that there'd be another clash between FE and WEC, and he's gotten to a point now where he's not happy with the clashes. He understands that the teams as well are pushing more for drivers who aren't doing dual programs, because obviously in terms of, testing, simulator work, and obviously just generally having your driver available is much easier. The podcast came out before the calendar was approved for both FE and WEC. And even before then, he was saying, and there was rumours that, of course, it was looking good, and he was saying, yeah, it's looking good. And obviously, I've seen Gen 4 and what it's going to be capable of. I'm, pretty interested in carrying on, and we're having some really good conversations. So yeah, it looks like now, but unless something dramatic changes, which who knows, it's Formula E. But based on what he was saying in the podcast, there are very good conversations taking place between himself and Envision. So you would imagine, a contract will be sorted in the short term. You'd have thought, obviously, with only a couple of rounds left. Typically, we obviously get the week after London, or the 2 weeks after London. We seem to then get all the contract news coming in at once.
Yep.
So I'm very much expecting him to be remaining on the grid. What will be interesting, and the fact that he's so keen now, the fact there's no clashes, and is hoping that will continue for the coming years. I wonder if he's going to be pushing for a multi-year deal, and I'm actually wondering if that's going to be a trend we see for a lot of drivers who are in need of a new contract, because what the teams probably want to be doing now is, for season 12, having a driver pairing they're going to take into season 13, in particular because during season 12 we see so much development and work and preparation for Gen 4. The last thing a team, I think, is going to want, very similar to what we're seeing in F1, to be honest, at the moment, in that the teams want to have their drivers in place already for Gen 4, so they know exactly who they're working for, what kind of driving style they want to base their car around, just to get, it to be as prepared as possible, rather than suddenly looking for a new driver a couple of months before it comes into play. So yeah, it looks like Seb, based on what he said in the podcast, will be on the grid next season. Of course, things can change. Who knows? Conversations can break down. But I'm expecting him to be on the grid next year. The question will remain, though, whether it's a 1-year deal or a multi-year deal for Gen 4.
Yeah, I think I think his age. I don't know if his age is a problem with it having a multi-year deal.
He's not as old as you realise. He's only
old as
36.
He's 36.
If I'm not mistaken. So actually,
Sam, Edo, and Lucas, I think, are the oldest ones.
Yes, Lucas is the oldest.
Lucas is
the longest by some way.
Yeah.
And this is something that I found whilst I was just scrolling through like the records and stats, just to see where Dan was in terms of like longest races before first win, and which he is now the longest, and where he is in terms of youngest as well. I think he's 7th in that list. But Sam Bird and Eduardo Mortara are born 3 days apart. And I had no idea about this for years.
What's that?
How did I only found this out the other day, because they're now on the oldest drivers to enter an FE race, and there was only 3 days between them. So I was like, wow, they are. Yeah, sorry, sidetracked. Continue.
We will continue. There's also talk going into next season about attack mode being reduced with the pit boost races, so not having 2 attack modes, but having 1 attack mode. What have you learned? What can you tell us on that?
To be honest, this is obviously reading Sam Smith's notebook as the first I'd heard of it, so full credits go to obviously Sam from the race end. It's actually something, funnily enough, that's been spoken about a lot this season, and that attack mode in general has been too powerful, which is quite funny when we go from attack mode, in season 9 and season 10 being just completely pointless, in all fairness, to now season 11 where it's just too powerful. And even from speaking to fans and a lot of drivers as well, there was kind of a frustration and more of an understanding that actually for fans it was quite confusing to be having pit boost and then attack mode as well. And I, for one, have also said on this show previously that I would like to see a race just with pit boost, with no attack mode. Obviously, that from the sounds of that's not going to happen. It will be instead a reduced attack mode, so it becomes more impactful on the pit boost instead. But yeah, so for me personally, I hadn't heard any of it, purely from reading obviously Sam's notebook, so full credits go to him. But yeah, I don't see it as a negative. For me, it is too powerful.
No, go
with
for it,
with that is it still going to be similar to next year, that one race will be pit boost, one race will be without pit boost next year, or are we still sort of
This
that
is
like a grey area for the moment?
Yes, this is the question I'm trying to ask. Pit boost isn't going anywhere. That's the one thing to note, because it's already included. It's already included as well in the Gen 4 regulations.
Yeah.
Something that's, it's pit boost will be staying. Question will be whether it will be for both races, for double headers, or just the one. I'm wondering if they will keep it to the current format, purely to try and keep the kind of different race styles, because I know that's something formally quite like in that one race, it is completely different to another.
And a feature race.
I cannot confirm whether we will be having it in all races next season. I would think it's unlikely. Gen 4, though, we're going to see so much change for Gen 4. So this time next year, we'll probably have a better picture of what the situation will be for Gen 4. But the most important thing is that pit boost quite clearly is not going to be disappearing, particularly when it is in the Gen 4 technical regulations.
Yep. Pit boost has to stay in just for where they want to go, and obviously for the recharging.
I like it,
and I like it too. I think it's a must in terms of the technology.
I was on. I've said, like, going back to when the show started, like, when was it? About a year and a half ago, something like that. And I was saying how, like, if pit boost, we called it attack charge back then. If attack charge didn't come in, Gen 3 would be a complete failure, because that was the whole thing about Gen 3, was the fact that there was going to be this fast charging thing, and it hadn't come in for 2 seasons. And so, I think pit boost is by far and away the future of Formula E. I think we're never going to be able to do like a full recharge thing in 30 seconds or something like that. At least not for another like 20 years.
The thing with pit boost is it opens more doors as well. So obviously, look into the future. If, for example, they get to a place where they can recharge more than 10% back into the car in a relatively short period of time, it then opens the door.
15 or 20.
It then opens the door to longer races, which of course is something that I know Jeff Dodds is quite keen on. He's quite keen to get races around to the 60, 75-minute mark. Again though, joking aside, I think with Gen 4 in particular, nothing really is going to change for the rest of this season or next season. It's going to be Gen 4 when FE can see the popularity, see if they were to, for example, mess around with a format, would they still be able to get people through the door? If it would, for example, even mean that you have to spread it across a full weekend. FE's big selling point right now is that they can do a single header, with the exception of first practice, which takes place obviously the evening before. They can do it all in one day, which makes it so accessible for fans. It makes it worthwhile going. Without practice one, which is obviously the most pointless session of the weekend. But
apart from Monaco, there hasn't been a single day event since season 8.
Yeah,
that's what I'd say, that they're not single day events, because you got P1 the day before.
Yeah, it's interesting that going into Gen 4 that maybe keeping with a similar format for the first season, because it is true. How many eyeballs are we going to get for Gen 4? If the eyeballs increase, then you can start playing around with things. If it doesn't increase, then we're in trouble. So we're praying that it increases. But I want to talk about Jakarta, because the whole point of the TBC and the calendars that we were discussing in the last episode was whether or not this race would be a success. And there was a lot of fans, I thought, in the grandstands. And, we saw also potentially fans. There was a debate whether they were ticketed fans or if they were, VIPs that we sometimes get on a Friday, like you see in London. But the crowds were fairly large, I thought. And I thought that must mean surely the event was a success.
There's a more important question for me to ask you first, Jack.
Go on.
Where is my lower third?
Okay, there's a great question. Really good. So remember.
I didn't even.
So remember when?
I'm watching everything.
Yeah, I know, and I knew he was gonna point it out. Remember when I was talking to you off air, and I was supposed to be changing it from Tobias to you? I didn't do it. I didn't do it. So,
It's all good. I'm not that overly bothered.
Still says Tobias, and I realised instantly when I went live. I was like, "Oh, I didn't change it."
I can be the British Tobias. Yeah. Anyways, right, okay. So Jakarta, the official figure that came out from FE was 23,000. However, that doesn't just include those in grandstands. That includes as well those who are in the fan village, who of course don't necessarily then go and watch in a grandstand. So it included those in the grandstand. So fans in general included the fan village. It also included hospitality. Which normally makes up a good number. But yeah, 23,000 for Jakarta, which in all fairness is a pretty decent number for that part of the world. For that part of the world, I think it's quite impressive. Obviously, it's bigger than I was expecting, in all fairness. I did still think, while some grandstands seemed to be relatively full, on camera there was quite clearly still some seats available. I think that's going to happen no matter where we go, probably with the exception of Mexico City. But in all fairness, thank you, Pico.
And London, maybe.
In all fairness, 23,000.
The thing is, you've got your camera in the reflection as well.
Hang on.
But anyways, back on track. I thought 23. Yeah, I see it, Pico. Looks good. Nice job. Now try and work on the logo. I thought 23,000 it was pretty good for what, in my eyes, was probably the second best race of the season. For me, Sao Paulo is still the best. For me, Jakarta was kind of looking like it was going to be a typical Jakarta race where overtaking is so difficult and not a lot happens. That all went out the window, of course, when Nick did the incident with Jake, and there's not too much to say on that. It was quite clear it was Nick's fault, which is why he got the penalty points and the 10-second time penalty. But nevertheless, that kind of just created all the chaos, and obviously the safety cars as well. And the fact the surface was so dirty, you guys have got a better memory than me. I can't remember a Formula E circuit ever looking that bad when it comes to a track surface, and that's also something which I know the drivers were concerned about. And the thing as well is when you saw the drivers coming back into the garage and the cars look more like rallycross cars, or they're just on the Dakar Rally, this is going to be a problem as well, because when you get to Gen 4 and the cars are so much faster, so much more powerful, these little things are going to have a bigger difference. The Gen 3 Evo cars now, it's not too big a deal. I thought, good job Jakarta. Should be on the calendar next year, of course. It is the second TBC. So, time will tell if they can get that deal across the line, FE and Jakarta, the local governors. But, we'll see what happens. And I thought it was, second best race of the year.
Yeah, I thought it was a good race. Obviously, there was lots of chaos. Obviously, Oliver Rowland, last thing that we'll talk about, we couldn't wrap up the title. I have a sneaky feeling, right, that Nissan have dropped off the ball slightly. They've not had a great Asian leg. I don't think they're the fastest car at the minute. I actually think there's more to it. I just don't think Rowland's just off the pace and a bit unlucky. I just don't think that they've had the pace. I think they've had a bit of a shocker. I'm a bit surprised by that. But no one seemed to take advantage. Like, Verline has the opportunity, Da Costa has an opportunity to take advantage, and they don't. And he finishes 10th and extends his championship lead.
Story all season, and it's funny, isn't it, because you look at, he's not made the duels in the last two E-Prix. He's obviously only scored 1 point in the last two E-Prix. He's not actually been on the podium since winning the second race in Tokyo, so it's extraordinary. He's scored 11 points from the last 3 rounds, but it just shows how his early season killer consistency, and I say killer in that he was finishing on the podium or winning almost every single race, just what is needed to win this series. You don't have to be consistent across every single race, but if you can string together 5 or 6 rounds of really big points, you can get yourself into a place where you don't need to be pushing for those wins. And I mean, has Ollie taken his foot off the ball? Maybe, but in all fairness, why not? He's going to win the title. If he doesn't, I will be stunned. I still think he probably will seal it in the opening race in Berlin, where to do that, he will need to have a 77-point lead come the end of it. It's 69 points at the moment, if I'm 68, 69, if I'm not mistaken. I could quite easily see him leaving the first race in Berlin with that lead needed to win the title in the first race in Germany. So it is funny. The Nissan powertrain, the Nissan car in general, still looks very, very strong. You also see Ollie's been making a few little mistakes. He did in Jakarta, of course, in qualifying. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned at all. He's going to win the title, and he's already still my favourite for next year because he's shown that when he's on it, he's untouchable. To the point that I've never seen a driver be so untouchable in FE ever. So he's taking his foot off the ball. Fair play to him. He's going to win the title. The big question is, I think, can Dan Ticktum tip Pascal, Taylor and Antonio to second? Dan is only 23 points behind, very much the informed driver at the moment.
Yeah.
I really do fancy him now to take his win and really use that as a leapfrog to be finishing consistently towards the top. He's already doing so now in the top 5 quite consistently the last few rounds.
He's the informed driver of the last 5 races.
He is, and I really can see him finishing second in the standings this year because Antonio is not consistent. Taylor's lost his consistency a bit, was really unfortunate in Jakarta, in all fairness. Pascal, again, couldn't make the most of Ollie finishing in 10th. For me, Dan is the driver who can get second, which I think would be probably the story of the season. Forget Ollie winning the title by an absolute canter. If Dan was to finish in second in an old Porsche powertrain, the team that's had more rebrandings than I've had hot dinners, it's just if he does that, there's going to be so many teams knocking on his door. Reminds me, there is a piece coming out on Racing News 365 in the coming days regarding Dan's future, so I will leave it on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like he's actually, in the right place at this precise moment, because if they've got the Porsche deal going into Gen 4 and so forth, and they've got a Porsche powertrain, and if Porsche are good, you think he's in the right place. But there is a man, actually, we're going to talk about this afterwards, but we've got a couple of minutes, so we'll finish with this with you. There was that story that the race ran, right, where Porsche were touting or looking at Oliver Rowland, right? And obviously there's this now, Oliver Rowland's rejected it and he's going to stay at Nissan and sign a new long-term deal. But if you're Da Costa, who's currently sitting 3rd in the championship, a couple of points off Pascal Valle, not really had a bad season comparable to his teammate, and they're still looking to get rid of you, is it time for Da Costa to actually say, if the Jaguar seat, if the Nick Cassidy thing is true and he's leaving Jaguar, surely if you're Da Costa and if they're still trying to get rid of you, why don't you just go, actually, I'm leaving. I'm going to go and I'm going to knock on, and I'll leave on my terms rather than your terms. And maybe it's this, if you're Da Costa, do you start thinking, actually, there's a seat over there that I can go and take?
Because the Porsche is still a better car than the Jaguar. It's as simple as that. What would you rather have? Okay,
that's just for next season. If it's a multiple year, then who knows?
It won't be. It won't be. Da Costa isn't going to be given a multi-year deal. The fact that he's obviously struggled to get this far with Porsche, with Porsche shows that it won't be a multi-year deal. In all fairness, Nico did himself a huge favour getting the podium in Jakarta to increase his chances. But if I'm Antonio, ultimately, not just that, if you're any racing driver, you want the best seat on the grid. And at the moment, from the offers that he has on the table, should remaining with Porsche, no matter how difficult it might be working with the team, no matter how fractious the relationship might be, you stick with Porsche. You stick with a team who are renowned for winning. They are brutal winners. All they want to do is finish on the top step of the podium in every single race. It would make no sense for me for him to go to Jaguar because, again, it's that gamble, and I'm going to make an F1 comparison. It's why, for example, it's absolutely pointless right now for Max Verstappen to leave Red Bull, because going into 2026, nobody knows what's going to happen in F1. Same case with FE. Nobody knows who's going to have the best car for Gen 4. What if, Antonio moves to Jag and they're even worse than Gen 4? It's then a move, and you've then ruined and given away a chance of maybe winning a title with Porsche in Season 12. You have to stick with what you know is best. And if the Porsche car is better than the Jag at the moment, which it is, you've got to stick with them. And actually, I favour Porsche probably be in a good place for Gen 4, given, of course, that they were one of the first to announce their continuation until 2030. So, for me, it's a no-brainer. If Antonio can stay with Porsche, he's got to stay with Porsche, because otherwise with a Jag, he ain't winning a title next season.
I understand that point, but for me, I'm like, if you're still trying to get rid of me, then fine, I'll go. I'll go. because there's no guarantees that he'll be even in the car, because he might get next season and then they might kick him out for Gen 4 because they finally got the driver that they wanted to get, and you're just like, I just feel like go and make your own decision rather than get forced out eventually. I think because to me that's where unless he wins a championship or does something remarkable, that looks like the inevitable result, that they eventually they're just going to kick him out.
I mean, time will tell, because if thing goes and wins the title next season, you know that won't happen, because Porsche, they want winners in their team. So for me at the moment, it makes the most sense to keep him. Will they? Time will tell. Obviously it's been discussed. So yeah, for me, if you're Antonio, yeah, maybe you go to Jag if you want a team, if you want to be working in a better environment that suits you.
Yep.
But if you want to be in a car where you can win races consistently next season and fight for the title, then you stay put.
Indeed. All right, Nick, thank you so much. We managed to get your lower third in by the end.
I see it. Good job.
I managed to get it in.
As soon as I saw that lower third come up, I was like, right, I can rest my arm.
I was like, oh. But the lucky thing is,
because if the Pride armband wasn't going to cut off my blood supply, holding that up for that amount of time was going to do it instead.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Nick, and we'll see you in Berlin.
We'll see you later, guys.
See you later.
I won't.
Oh,
See you later.
Bye bye. Right, let's get some fans in. I'm gonna go with Fia. Fia, you're on the FE bar. How are you? You're unmuting. We'll give you time to unmute because obviously we just dragged you in. So remember though, if you want to come on, so last half hour we're taking your calls.
It's also worth
Pico.
noting, I think there is a little bit of a delay.
There is a delay, but once you hear that you've been pulled up, you should hopefully be here. I don't know why. We haven't dropped any frames or anything on my end, so everything's running.
No,
smoothly.
no, just that it's like usually it's like 20 seconds, and today it's a bit more like 40.
All right, well, Fia hasn't unmuted yet, so Fia, if you're in chat.
Oh, hello.
Okay.
Oh, hello. That was good. That was good timing. I was about to kick you out.
Yeah, I had to mute the YouTube stream. So.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Hope you're well. And what would you like to talk about?
As a lot of people have been talking about already, Dan's win, well deserved.
Yeah.
I only got into Eprix last year, but I was watching a couple of races from like the past seasons, and he definitely deserves it this time.
Yeah.
And I was very, very, very happy. So yeah.
No, like he does deserve it. He said he's gone through a lot of pain, and that's what he said, right? He's gone from a lot of pain, sitting at the back of the grid, having uncompetitive car after uncompetitive car and after uncompetitive car. And we said for a very long time, me and Pico, that they shouldn't be a manufactured team anymore because they were producing their own powertrains effectively in-house, and that they would probably be better off being a customer team. Now that there are a customer team and a good customer team, Porsche, then, the sky's the limit, sort of, for Dan, and especially as I said, going into Gen 4, if he thinks that he's in the right place and in the right team, he could thrive going into Gen 4 if that Porsche powertrain's strong.
And yes, I was very happy, and I feel like he's proved a lot of people wrong. So the last couple of weeks, anyway. So.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Do you think, right, here, I've got a great question, and I've sort of written a feature about this, which will appear in our latest magazine, which is coming out very soon, I hope. Whether or not this changes the narrative for Dan Ticktum, because a lot of people, don't see him as being a success in motorsport, or hasn't done much since, And he did talk about that short-sightedness of people and what he did in F2. But now that he's won a race in a world championship such as Formula E, do you think that is the start maybe of changing the narrative around Dan Ticktum?
I mean, it's definitely a start, but like, as in, there'll always be people who will bring up what he did 10 years ago and like bring up all that sort of stuff as well. So I feel like we should just focus on the positives.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with you. Do you think
I'm just gonna throw a grenade very quickly because and this is not my opinion. This is something that I just saw on Twitter earlier today, and it's the fact that Dan won obviously on Saturday, and then last night Santino Ferrucci got a podium in IndyCar, and there was one tweet that I saw saying, "Cancel all motorsport, it's over." Yeah, no, it's all gone to pot and everything like that, and I think yes, what Dan did 10 years ago was bad, and yeah, he shouldn't have done it, and Santino, what he did in F2 was stupid. The difference is Dan apologized and held his hands up and went, yeah, no, kind of my fault. Whereas, like, what Santino did in F2 all those years ago was ridiculous and just not on. And yeah, sure, Dan's wasn't on, but the fact that Dan sort of held his hand, went, no, okay, what I did was stupid, and we saw in the Amazon documentary the fact that he had to beg to be able to race again after that incident, and that's the difference, and that's the sort of maturity. Like and sure, occasionally he says like the odd thing, like in Monaco when he wanted to punch his team for
but everyone does that
for getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
look at that McLaren driver in
yeah,
IndyCar
the thing is,
recently, and
you
the whole
say-
debacle about that.
Yeah, but the thing is that was on the radio, and so
But so
I
was-
don't classify radio as that.
Yeah,
When you're in front of the media and you're saying it's
a bit
for
different.
me it's a little bit different, but the fact that everyone's comparing to something that he did when he was 15 or 16 years old. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but I look back on my 15, 16-year-old self and I think that guy was a massive...
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the word because I've already said too many expletives on this show over the last 1.5 years, but I was
Yeah.
a massive, let's say, twit, because
Yeah.
that's
Not too bad.
similar.
Do you think say when he's 35 years of age, 10 years from now, do you think that incident will still be brought up, or do you think people would have moved on 20 years on?
I feel like they probably wouldn't, but again, it will all depend on like. I feel like it just gets brought up a lot if he does anything good.
Yeah.
So maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. So
Yeah. I don't know. That's the thing that I find that I just see is interesting, because you're like, are we? Because it's been 10 years since so forth. It's like, are we going to go another 10 years, and it's still come up, and anything around Dan Ticktum, that's still brought up, and it'd be ridiculous going back 20 years to look at one incident, and you go, and people are still bringing it up today. But then, I don't know. I just feel
Everyone remember. I mean, like, this is a whole different kettle of fish. But everyone remembers Senna for his ability around like Monaco and everything like that. And people forget the fact that he purposely took out Prost 2 years in a row in Suzuka.
But he's seen as an idol. It's amazing, isn't it? The difference in perspective.
The fact that he was 31 and dating a 15-year-old or something like that. That's not on. But people brush over that and go, "Oh, what a great driver! It's such a shame he died." I mean, like Luti's already cancelled me for what I said about Ticktum. At this rate, I'm really enjoying my final appearance on the FE bar because I'm going all out here.
Just boom, get it all out. Yeah, it's true, and people said about Sebastian Vettel as well. Purposely driving into Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, there wasn't the consequence wasn't as big in that because they both carried on their merry way. But he drove, but everyone still lauds Vettel and so do I, to be honest with you. As a great driver. But we just brush over that incident. But for Dan Ticktum, you're not allowed to brush over it. So it's really
Lewis
interesting.
has made a fantastic point. The PK Junior incident. People still talk about that.
What, the 2009?
That is, yeah. That 08, yeah.
08, sorry.
That is probably the closest comparison. Yeah, the fact that people still resent PK for that when he was just doing what he was told because he wanted to continue in Formula One.
Yeah, I like PK Junior. He was one of my favourites.
Yeah, no, he's a nice guy to interview.
He was one of my favourites, and you got your signed pizza box, so.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that. Is it still there?
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's
pizza box is 10. That's going to be... That needs to go in a museum.
10 years old, yeah.
That pizza box is 10 years old. That pizza box is 10 years old.
That is 10 years old this
10
week.
years old.
That is a bit of Formula E history.
Oh my
right
god,
here.
that is 10 years old. Wow.
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 That's incredible.
10 years. You've got to keep that forever.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't get rid of
Why
it.
do you think it's been in a drawer for 10 years?
You cannot get rid... When you move out, when you have a family where you're older, that pizza box is just... When you die, that pizza box has got to be at your funeral.
If I die before you, I will leave you that in my will.
Yes,
Okay?
thank you. I will happily take the Nelson Piquet signed pizza box. Thea, anything to add before we let you go?
Just about like it's in the whole pit boost and the possibility of reduced attack mode.
Go for
I
it.
feel like if we had a sort of similar layout to like Formula One, where we have like sprint weekends and everything. I mean, that would obviously mean we'd have to have more races, and I probably know that's probably not a logistical possibility. But if we did, couldn't we have like sprint weekends where we have the full attack mode, one pit boost race like we have now, but then we also most of the other races are single headers with just pit boost. Was what I was thinking, but logistically it's probably not possible
I think that
since it's all already so clashy.
Maybe possible. Like I said, I'm a big... Unlike Nick, where he loves single headers and he's old fashioned, I feel like Formula E, you're there for the weekend, you might as well do 2 races, right?
Right.
And
so,
Go on.
I'm not going to go down there. I was going to do the sprint and feature race for like the 5th.
But-
like, it's been the 5th time I mention it in half an hour. I can't.
But Thea's kind of saying the same thing, right? So in terms of that Saturday race could be a normal 45-minute race that we're used to, 1 pit boost, 1 attack mode, for example, right? And then your second race on the Sunday might be just only pit boost, 75 minutes long. I'd take a 45-minute sprint and a 75-minute race on the Sunday and a 45 on the Saturday. Like, I think that works well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
that sounds good.
whether or not you do something with the energy so it's just not a flat out race. So I don't think we want flat out races. I think we need something to make it a bit more,
Well, I think if one of them's going to be about 45 minutes, and then the other one's going to be 75 minutes or something like that, then it would sort of work out where, the amount that you get in pit boost would be way less than the extra 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something, or maybe no pit boost on the Saturday, just attack mode race, and pit boost is safe for the Sunday.
So you have a sprint race.
This is what we're saying.
And then you have a feature race with pit boost.
Yeah. There you go. Maybe that is the way forward.
The weekend.
Maybe that is the way. But I honestly feel double headers are the way
Jeff,
to go.
get me in. Get me in, Jeff. I know what I'm doing.
Because if these cities want these races, right? If these cities want these races and they're signing up, like Madrid, Madrid could be a double header. There's no excuse for Madrid not being a double header.
No.
Right?
Well, prologue. But yeah.
There's no excuse.
Yeah.
Right? There's no
Miss a
excuse.
day of the prologue.
Right?
Second day of the prologue.
You know, there's no excuse. Like you can do something. So maybe that's something they look at for Gen 4 in terms of every race being a double header, and you get more races. And you know, I watched the Jakarta E-Prix, and I woke up for qualifying, right? Because I thought if I don't wake up,
I did not.
Yeah, but I thought to myself, if I don't wake up for qualifying, I'm just watching a 45-minute race and it's gone. It's gone. The whole race, you've. It's like when you just watch the Grand Prix on a Sunday because you know you're working, you're out on the Saturday. You know, when you watch the practice session on a Friday, or you catch up, or you watch qualifying, and then you feel like, okay, I've taken part in watching the event. I've watched the qualifying. I've watched the race. But when you just watch the race, okay, the races are longer in Formula One, so it's not too bad. But you know, so you feel like you've tuned in, but 45 minutes is like, oh, I've been looking forward to this race and it's gone in 45 minutes.
And you could say, oh, but MotoGP is like that. But the thing is, MotoGP incorporate Moto3 and Moto2 so closely that you sort of watch the entire package. You don't just watch MotoGP. You pay attention to the nutcases. You pay attention to the 16, 17-year-olds who think that they're the next coming of
Valentino Rossi.
Yeah, and we'll throw it down the inside, regardless of safety concerns or anything like that, because it's fun. And Indeed. It is. I love Moto3.
Right. Thea, we have to let you go because of time, because we've got more people to try and chat to before we get to 10 o'clock. So thank you so much for coming on. Massively appreciate it. Right, let's get Will in. I didn't learn how to turn off the thing. The channel thing. I've got to try again.
In your own time,
I did. I should have got people to test it.
You'll get the hang of it one day.
One day we'll get the hang of it. I thought I had got rid of it and it came back. I don't know the settings changed. But anyway, we're joined by Will.
Hiya.
Hello, Will. How are you? Welcome to Back to the FE Bar. What would you like to talk about?
I loved this race. This was an absolutely brilliant race. It was just mental, just the amount of things that happened. First off, as a first point, I put in chat what I think would make sense architecturally for Formula E. And as Pico would say, first race, the sprint race, 45 to 60 minutes. Okay, that's the first race. You're proving the sprint and the speed of electric cars. Okay, you're expressing the wild speed. Second race, next day, 75 to 90 minutes, pit boost, no upper limit of time to let them explore what they want to do, but you have to take a mandatory pit stop of 10 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that.
That sounds okay. Yeah.
Sounds juicy.
Get it down, Jeff.
There we go. Yeah. I'll just take access to the pit lane for the London E-Prix as payment. That's fine.
Yeah.
Are you going to the London E-Prix?
Yeah, both days, of course.
Both days.
Yeah.
We have to
every year.
We'll have to arrange another meetup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Please.
I'll be honest. I've already looked at, because obviously.
I wonder if the pictures will be bigger.
Obviously, Formula One's on that weekend as well, but it's not.
Come on. We all know Formula E is more important.
Yeah.
Formula what? Formula lame? Oh yeah.
The main reason that I've thought about that and just to make it sort of work is because there's someone who is a constant on this show that also has to work Formula One times as well. So. I've been thinking about this to work it around Mr. Nick Golding.
You want to get involved Golding in the thingy, my boy?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. We'll do something in London. This is the official sort of.
The unofficial. Something will
happen. We're
going
to do something in London, everyone.
Something will come up. Something will come up.
Pico, are you going to be there as well or no?
Oh yeah. No, the two things that I do is London.
The two non-negotiables.
Yeah, London and pre-season testing. They're my two things now. I will focus everything around them.
Good. At least we got someone to do testing because it won't be me.
But between the two of those, London and pre-season testing, on my bucket list is getting a Nick Cassidy signature autograph.
I can arrange that for you.
That would be wicked.
Just an autograph signed card, or one of those.
Yeah. Well, I've tried 2 years or 3 years now to get the bands so that you can go to the autograph session.
Yeah.
And it's so disorganized every year that I never know where to go. And what was it, last year? I showed up at 7 a.m, started queuing. I was like one of the first 40 people in, and they were like, "Oh no, it's going to be later at 9 o'clock or something." I'm like, okay. So I come back, and then they say, "Oh no, they're all gone."
They're all gone.
Anyway,
I can arrange that.
That would be wicked. Back on track.
Yeah.
Not to derail too much. Super happy for Tictum. That's great, and I think De Vries should be suspended for a race or get a 20 place grid penalty.
Well, he technically served his penalty, which was 10 seconds, so it stopped him from winning the race. Well, then his car broke down, which stopped him from winning the race as well. So, a mute point.
Yeah, but driving standards.
He has been put up. So Dan Tickton called him the dirtiest driver, and I think Jake Dennis will probably now agree with that sentiment after what he did. And I feel like ever since Dan Tickton said he was the dirtiest driver, I feel like most of the incidents have occurred around Nick de Vries. His aggressive defending in Shanghai, like, you know, so it's come up more that Nick de Vries is actually one of these drivers who is really aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and he's known for the aggressive defending, but I don't know. I think there's a limit, and it's just a feeling. When I see De Vries like in London a few years ago, or this weekend, it just feels like this is over the line. This shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting because someone mentioned, sorry, Pico, that he's a world champion, and it's not
exactly.
World
Come
champion.
on,
and you kind of forget that Nick's a world champion in Formula E.
I'm just gonna throw a little thing in here and just quote a radio message from Da Costa in Seoul in season 8.
Go on.
Which is
this is good memory.
Yeah, which I might misquote it a little bit, but I'm fairly certain he went like this De Vries guy, if he is going to Formula 1, he's got a whole different thing coming. This isn't a thing that he's just come back from Formula 1 and been a little bit like this. He was like this before he had that little half a year away in F1.
Yeah.
This isn't a
new thing.
This isn't a new thing. It's not too. I mean, like for me, it's not too much of a surprise. I mean, and that's no disrespect to Nick. He's still a great racing driver. He is a world champion, as you pointed out, Jack. But it's something that's been said multiple times before, and I'm not surprised that it's been brought up again.
Yeah, I think a race ban it wasn't that bad of an incident. I don't think it was more of a misjudgment. Yes, it was aggressive, and he was a bit annoyed at what Jake Dennis did to him the lap before, which is ironic considering he does it too. But
yeah.
For me, I felt like he lost his head slightly, Nick, when that incident happened, because he got aggressively defended against. Then he got it round and he said, well, I'm going to chop you off. You chop me off. I'm going to chop you off on the way round, mate, because that's what he did to me, and it ended up in disaster. And if he doesn't have a technical problem, it costs him the race win.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand 10 seconds is it's a decent amount, especially in Formula E, right? He could dropped down to outside the points. I get it. Maybe I just don't like De Vries. I've seen so much aggressive blocking that I think is over the line that, that's really could be a personal thing. That's fair.
You'll be throwing like banana skins at him in London, like, go away, De Vries, boo.
Oh, I've already stacked up 10 of them. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I think it is what it is with De Vries, but it'd be interesting to see what happens, and obviously they want more consistent with penalties, maybe harsher penalties going forward to try and stamp out some of these driving standards. And it's to be honest with you, because Formula E has been such a contact sport for such a long time, it's kind of, you've got used to that, a little bit of rubbish racing, and it'd be interesting when I think we get to Gen 4 when these cars are a bit faster and so forth, and I would assume more touches might mean to more things going wrong, so therefore maybe more penalties. So it'd be interesting to see if the driving standards sort of like change between now and then.
Yeah, that's fair. I like the Rubbins racing kind of thing, but I think when it causes the other person to get a puncture or their wing or like some part of their car to materially get damaged, then to me that's where it crosses the line, and now it probably deserves a look or a penalty.
Indeed. Right, Will, we'll let you go.
Thank you guys for having me on.
No worries.
Lovely show as always.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much. It means the world.
All right. Cheers.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Right, we'll get Sam in. Hello, Sam. Hope you're well. I'll give you a second to unmute. Hello, you're on the FE bar. What would you like to say, Sam?
Guys, how are you doing?
We're very well, thank you. All the better for hearing you.
Great. So that race was brilliant.
Yeah.
I think many of others have expressed that, and it was just chaotic.
Was
and
it
I think
chaotic just because of the ending? If the ending didn't happen with the things, you know, does that? Well, of course that was the race, but Nick said it was quite boring up until the full course yellows. So it was just the last couple of laps that just made it such a good race.
I think I feel like the strategy was playing out. You know, okay, maybe the first half of the race it was very structured, very you know, the
formulary
we mentioned it. Yeah, it was kind of getting into place. You know, kind of setting up things with and then I think once the attack mode kind of came into effect about halfway through.
Yep.
I think we were building to a good conclusion. I say good. We'll never know.
Yeah.
But I think at that 2/3 mark when it was the debris that caused the first intervention, wasn't it?
Yep.
I think after that it just went bananas. It just went ballistic. And then say it just unfolded after that. So
I think it was a good race, and as I said, you know, in terms of if one of those, if that 21st of or whatever it is next season of June is the race for Jakarta, then, and it was based on whether this race was a success. You know, 23,000 people in the grandstands, a good race. The dust is a small issue, but overall, I'd be sad if it's not on the calendar next season.
I think if you just the track itself was like, I think people forget sometimes the track's bespoke for Formula E.
Yep.
That track was purposely built from nothing for Formula E. It's there all year round. Nothing, as far as I know, nothing else runs on it.
Yeah.
It's just basically just land.
Yeah.
So you may as well make use of that. But I think what I really wanted to talk about, and I think after that race, I thought of one FE race back in time that was very, very similar to this.
Okay.
And I'll explain my thinking, but I'll run through it quickly. So this was Tictum's first FE win.
Yep.
And the race I'm thinking about was someone else's first win. And that race was Buenos Aires 2015.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, I remember this race. There was a 2-car battle between Buemi and I'm gonna say Degrassi.
Yes. So I'll quickly run through it bit by bit because I did watch the highlights to kind of rejig the memory. So it was pretty good battle with Buemi and Degrassi. It was pretty stable.
Yep.
This was the race with the suspension problems, if we remember clearly.
Yes.
Where they're breaking over the curb.
Yep.
Chandok had one, and then after that, Buemi hit the inside wall from the lead.
Yeah. It wasn't a suspension issue. That was just clipping the inside barrier.
Yeah, I was clipping it. Yeah. And that was like 23. Then Bird in third place at that point in that lead group, because there was 5 in that group.
Yep.
Very, very close. Bird got a penalty for exiting under the red light after the car swap.
Yep.
So that was another contender gone.
I forgot about that bit.
That was another contender gone, and that was 2 laps later. A lap later after that, Degrassi then had a suspension problem.
Yeah.
So that was another leader gone. And then Heidfeld left up until lap 33 with 2 laps left. He got a drive-through for speeding.
Yeah.
So that basically opened the door to Da Costa getting his first win. And why I say I draw parallels between this race bin and that race is it sort of played out in a similar way.
Yeah. They all just fell one by one, and it just allowed Da Costa.
It was a lot quicker. I think it was a lot more dramatic. Like Dennis leading with the full course yellow, then De Vries, getting the battery issue, penalty. Cassidy I think also Cassidy had 2 attack modes left.
He looked all right in that race. He could have. I was thinking halfway through that race he could have got a podium, and he was unlucky. And And the thing is, like, and I'm sure you're going to bring it up next, but Edo Mortara was
Bang on.
looking,
Yeah.
was looking fantastic. And
Yeah,
then
it was just
full course
really
came
poor
at the same time.
timing. Yeah, I think on the Cassidy one, they could have potentially seen that, because there was debris on track at that point, and you do wonder, should they be being a bit more active with, is there going to be a yellow, given how critical that decision was going to be?
That was a mistake.
Yeah, and if he had that, with then the back closing and then having to take those two, he would have had plenty of time to take those two, even with the other interventions.
Yeah.
So, and then Mortaro had the one at the end, but then took it before the four-course yellow came out for all the mess that happened after the safety cars.
Even if you wanted to get rid of one, you could have got rid of your 2-minute one and then had 6 minutes once it was all cleared.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just going to bring up this point while we're chatting about it. Why were there not any added laps to that race?
There wasn't enough time had passed. You needed 3 minutes.
Yeah,
I
think enough time had passed.
But then,
it's the
80%. So sorry. There is a specific lap that once we go past that lap, any.
Yeah, it's 3 to go, isn't it?
Yeah, but
it's 80% of the race distance. It basically avoids a Valencia situation in 2021 when you at that point energy effective laps at the end that everyone gets caught out and you get another one of those. So I thought the same, but it's like it's frustrating. But I'd rather that than Valencia.
Because I was watching it. I was thinking. Because Cassidy was when the full course yellow was called, Cassidy had almost 4 minutes left of his attack, and by the time the full course yellow ended, it was gone. His attack mode had been long gone, and you only need, I think it was like something like 3 minutes under full course yellow or safety car to warrant an extra lap. But the safety car, understandably, wasn't long enough because that was only 1 lap. But the full course yellow was longer than three minutes, so that's where I got confused. I didn't realise that it was 80%. I thought it was just before 3 laps to go. So that's
I think that's when it gets revealed to us. Yeah, so it's a bit
journalist of the year right here. But
but yeah, I see comments under Effie's post sometimes where there has been yellows late in the race, and people are like, well, where was the added laps? And yeah, it's just a communication on how that works. And I think sometimes even the commentators get caught out by that, and they think, oh, there's got to be laps.
Yeah.
That I know in my head, I'm one of the only few. It seems to be that I know it's 80, but it's not abundantly clear. So better communication on that. I think.
Thanks for explaining it, because now I know.
No problem. Yeah.
Oh, we gotta love you, Pico. We gotta love you.
Yeah.
Sam, we gotta let you go.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. This has been the race I've looked least at all season because of I was here, there, everywhere this weekend. So no. All right. Cheers, Sam.
Sam, thank you so much for coming on, though.
Yeah, no problem, guys. See you later.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right, let's finish with Ricardo.
I really like that analogy.
Oh yeah, that was a really good analogy.
Yeah, it was really good.
You know what?
Analogy.
It's amazing.
And now I've learned about Formula E.
But you know when he's like, and
how long have I been part of this site?
I don't know. But you know when your brain goes
before COVID.
Yeah, when your brain goes, like, oh, he's going to mention a race, like, and I've watched every single Formula E race, and he goes back to 2015. I have watched every single one. Even when I'm out, I'll get it on my phone somehow.
Yeah.
And he just and it's amazing. I go back to 2015. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. There was the battle between these two. He had obviously gone back and remembered a bit more happened, but I knew that the race was between Degrassi and Buemi at some point, and then somehow Buemi doesn't win it either. I can't know how Buemi doesn't win it.
No.
But the Costa did win, and then I remember.
It was basically the curse of everyone who led that. Anyone who led that.
I remember the picture of him and his Avalon Aguri, and I'm like, I can remember the picture I put on the website with my race report. It just vividly came up into my brain, and I was like, wow. Anyway, Ricardo's here. Ricardo, how are you?
guys.
Good.
I'm well, and you?
Good. We're very well. What would you like to talk about to wrap up the show?
Well, to wrap up the show, let's talk about just to change the topic a bit about the cost.
Go on.
How about the
Yes, your favourite man. What would you do? Because they're trying to get rid of him at Porsche. I honestly think he should walk.
I personally don't.
Okay.
Because the season to get rid of him was last year, and he proved Porsche and all of his doubters wrong.
Yeah, but he went like
myself included. To be honest,
he went 4 on the. Yeah, he had a not great start to the year, and he had a win taken away from him in Misano. But he went on 4 on the bounce.
But they're still touting to get rid of him now.
And from what I remember, he had a mathematical chance coming into London.
He did.
It was slim, but it was mathematical.
He did.
Yeah,
but go on. So why should he stay?
Well, it's the thing that so for season 9 and season 10 they only got their cards on the championship, on the drivers' championship, with Pascal. And then season 9 he showed a bit, like races in Portland, in Cape Town, of course, Hyderabad as well. And last season there's no explanation needed. He just knocked it out of the park for those 4 races, and Misano as well, and some others. But yeah, this season is proving that when he's at one with the car, and when Porsche doesn't make mistakes with the strategy, that I think this race there were some missed opportunities, because I think in the race there were I don't know, I don't remember if it was the first or the second attack mode, but it was like, I don't know, it was behind, but they were battling for position. I think it was for 6th or 7th, and then Da Costa just had a 1.5 gap to the car behind.
Yeah.
And then they had a great gap to go for attack, even if the attack mode was dirty.
Yeah.
And the undercut was
high.
Actually, yeah. I think there were some missed opportunities because it was with Tictum the whole race, and then in the end Tictum won and Da Costa finished 4th.
Yep.
So.
And Tictum lost out in the first round of attack mode. He was up in 4th and then ended up behind Barnard and all that lot.
Yeah, he did. But I think overall there were some missed opportunities. But I think this is the first race I am actually happy with the Costa's race. Yeah. Maybe since Mexico, maybe, because
you're just a harsher cricket as the Porsche team at the minute. It looks like, Ricardo. You're kicking about. You're kicking about Porsche.
Well. If you saw the let's say Sao Paulo, so Pascal just knocked it out of the park in Sao Paulo, but we knew that it was going to be a pack race.
Yep.
So a peloton race, sorry. So maybe Da Costa can go forward, and he's pretty good around Sao Paulo and this type of races. So he can go forward, and the Porsche seems to be a good package overall, not just the factory Porsche, but the Andretti of Jake was looking pretty good as well. So yeah, and then you go through Sao Paulo, Mexico, and then you are here at the end of the season with Roland, who for me was maybe an outsider for the championship, just leading with what's 2.5 race wins.
Yep, 2.5. Yep, 69 points. So nearly 3 races.
Yeah, so yeah, I think this season was a season of missed opportunities for Porsche.
Yeah, 100%.
And it proved when they have the package to dominate, they don't dominate. I'm not taking credit of last year's championship for Pascal and the achievements for Antonio, but yeah, I think this season was a bit of missed opportunities. They could have just run away with both championships, either with Pascal or Antonio in the drivers' championship. To be honest,
I'm trying to think of a name for Ricardo, in terms of like, he ain't having it. Like, he's harsh on Porsche. He's like, no, not good enough. Not good enough. Not good enough, Da Costa. Harsh Ricardo. I feel like we need to find a name for Ricardo.
Yeah, I quite like it, to be honest. But yeah, I think just some missed opportunities, and I stand by the quote that I left out on the last FE bar, that if Da Costa didn't win this race in Jakarta, he wasn't going to win.
Oh yeah,
I forgot
you did say
it was
that.
Berlin. I forgot there was Berlin, and Da Costa is just the Berlin Meister, or he goes to Berlin.
Yep.
And since season 6 onwards, it was like he was racing literally at home.
Yep.
In his backyard. So I don't know.
It'll be another pack race though in Berlin, I expect, even with the pit boost.
Yeah, but I think with the track layout favor, yeah, I think track layout, although this is Formula E and it's going to be a pack race in both races, I think Nissan will be a bit better than Porsche.
Yeah, okay. But Porsche's home race, so it'd be big. Yeah, the first half of the pit boost race will be pack, and then after the pit boost might less so. But Sunday's race will be it was a horrible pack race last year. I watched it live. I enjoyed it watching it live actually, but it was just like I was outside watching between the start finish line and the turn 6 hairpin, and just having 4 cars wide every 5 minutes was just incredible. But whether or not it was actual good racing is the question mark. But we'll have to see what happens this season around it in Berlin. But Ricardo, thank you so much for coming on. And I'll think of a better name than Harsh Ricardo, but I'll try and find something that may be alliterative, if I can. Rampant. I don't think rampant works. Rampant Ricardo.
Yeah. I'll be waiting.
I'll come up with something. I will come up with something, and then I will call it, and that'll be your name forever on the FE bar.
Yeah, we'll see.
I love how harsh you are on Da Costa. He wants Da Costa to stay at Porsche, but he's saying he's not good enough at the same time.
No, it's not enough, because he's proved it in the in last season and this season that he has enough and beyond to do it.
Yeah, no,
I think the Porsche package as a whole, it was just a mess.
So he's got credit in the bank basically for you. He's got credit in the bank.
I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and hear me out. If we're doing nicknames, right? Everyone just needs to. So we all get like a box of Coke cans, because they're doing the names again at the moment.
Yes.
We all grab a Coke can, and that is your nickname.
Nah, well, it's a good idea, but I like it. But
I think that's a fantastic name.
No, we can't call. We pick Ricardo up and it says Stephanie, and you can't call him Stephanie.
No, no. Yesterday, I was calling my colleague Shannon the entire day because that's what it said on their Coke can.
And what was their name?
Ross.
Ross. His name was Ross, but we called him Shannon. That's brilliant. Brilliant. And on that note, I think it's time to end the FE bar. Ricardo, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Cheers, guys. Till next time.
Bye. And that is it for the FE bar. We'll leave on that little bombshell, that little note. It's brilliant though. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't work for this show, unfortunately. Wouldn't work for this show. But no, remember.
We'll do it in London, everyone. We'll do it in London.
That could be. No,
I'll bring a thing of Cokes in.
We'll nick them from the media centre, and then
No. I'll come in on the. I'll come in there. We're going like no food or drink. No. Media pack. Cute. This is for me.
This is for me. Taking it in. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for watching the FE bar, though. We've been a blast.
Before we go, have a great birthday, mate.
Thank you. Thank you. No one told me how my life is ruined. So maybe my life isn't ruined.
So you've got one more year, mate.
One more year.
Opinion.
One more year.
It sounds like I'm saying you're gonna die.
Yeah.
No,
you got one more year, mate. Life's over.
Yeah, no. In a year,
my ginger hair will be gone. I'll be grey.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Thank you for watching. Please, if you haven't hit the like button, and if you are new around here, then hit the subscribe button as well. You can also become a member if you haven't become a member. Join the gang. But thank you so much for watching. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time to react to the Berlin E-Prix, which I will be at. So hopefully if I make that plane after the 4 p.m. race schedule, so fingers crossed. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Good night.